In this quick start video, I'll go through the steps for creating a project, adding candidates, and downloading their results. To create a project, click the Projects tab and click Create. The project name is just a title for your project, so you can put anything, but try to keep it relevant so that candidates know what the test is for. The passcode is a feature which not everyone uses, but it is quite useful if you anticipate a lot of candidates taking your tests. Any candidate that knows your project passcode can take your project without you having to add them to the system. We'll see more about how the passcode feature works in a minute, but for now, just put something which can't easily be guessed. The expiry date I'm going to leave blank because I want this project to stay open for a while. But if you know that you want your project to stop working after a certain date, you can put an expiry date in here. The support name is the name of the person in your organisation whom the candidates can contact if they have any questions about the selection process. The support email is the email address candidates can use if they have any questions about the selection process. You can put your email address, or feel free to put ours. The description is there to give your candidates a bit more information about the project. If you tick this email reports box, our platform will automatically email you a copy of the candidate's results report as soon as they complete the project. Inactive feature is really only used if you want to pause your project for any reason, or you don't want the project to go live just yet. The last section is where you pick the tests you'd like your candidates to complete for this project. In this example project, I would like everyone to take one verbal reasoning test, one numerical reasoning test, and a personality questionnaire. So I pick the type of test and the test itself. The norm group is the group of people against whom your candidate scores will be compared. So here you should pick the group which most closely fits the candidates you're testing. The norm group means we can display your candidate scores as a percentile score, which shows how your candidates performed relative to a comparison group. So that's the verbal reasoning test, and that's the numerical reasoning test. And the personality questionnaire. For personality questionnaires, we get the option to pick a job fit score. If you choose to have this, you'll get an extra scale shown on the personality reports, which will be a combination of the traits you pick. So for example, if the person you're looking for is going to have the personality traits of calm, methodical, and procedural, you can drag those into the job fit scales. This can be useful if you're comparing lots of candidates at a glance, because this one job fit scale contains the elements of personality you're most interested in. And that's everything filled in for the project. So click Save and the project is ready to accept candidates. The project we've just created had 3 assessments: a numerical reasoning test, a verbal reasoning test, and a personality questionnaire. So it will cost 3 credits. Each time a candidate completes this project, 3 credits will be deducted from your credit balance. At this stage, it hasn't actually cost any credits yet because no one has taken the project. Credits are deducted each time a candidate finishes the test in your project. Now, before we move on to the next step of inviting candidates to complete our project, now is a good time to add your logo. This step is optional, so you can jump straight to adding candidates. But if you would like the test interface to display your logo instead of our standard test partnership logo, click Edit Details. On this page, you can edit your details. Find the section which says Client Image Logo and click Browse. I'm going to pick this image. And we have to enter some alt text, which is just a description of the picture. And click Save. Now when any of your candidates take your tests, they'll see your logo instead of ours. Now that we have a project, the next step is to invite candidates to complete our project. There are 2 ways of inviting candidates. I'll start with the most common way, which is just to add each candidate manually. Then we'll look at another way, which uses the project passcode feature. So here's the first and most common way of adding candidates. Click the Candidates tab and click Create. Here we enter the candidate's details and pick which project you want to add them to. This is the project we created earlier, so I'll pick this one. The username has to be unique for each candidate because they'll use this to log in. The email address does not have to be unique. This is just where we send the login details. So you could put your own email address here and the login details will be sent to you. Or if you want the login details to be sent straight to the candidate, put their email address. And click Save. The candidate will now receive an automatic email giving them their login details and asking them to complete your project. And that's it for this candidate. Now we just wait for them to complete the tests. As soon as the candidate has completed the project, their results report will automatically appear in your Assessments tab. And if you click the Email Reports box when you are creating the project, you'll also get them by email automatically. For testing a handful of candidates, that step is quite easy to repeat for each one. Each candidate will each receive an email and they can each get started. But what if you have hundreds of candidates? That will take a long time to set up. This is when you can use your project passcode. To quickly remind ourselves of the passcode we chose earlier, let's have a look at the project again. This is the project. And this is the passcode. Anyone who knows your project passcode can register themselves as a candidate and be automatically assigned to your project. So instead of you creating each candidate, they register themselves. To illustrate this, let's have a look at what a candidate would see. On the main login page for candidates, tptest.com, candidates can either log in with the details they've been emailed, or if they have a passcode, they can register themselves. So they'd fill in their details and enter your project passcode. If they use your project passcode to register, they'll automatically be added as your candidate and they'll see your project in their tasks list. So now you've seen how the passcode feature works, you can decide if you want to use it or not. Most people don't use it, but if you have hundreds of candidates, you can see how it saves you a lot of time. So far, we've created a project and we've seen 2 ways to add candidates to our project. We're almost finished with this quick start video. The last step is to review candidates' results. In the Assessments tab, we can see a list of all the test sessions which are in progress and which have been completed. For any completed assessment, we can select it and click Download Report. For the project we set up, we had 1 verbal test, 1 numerical test, and a personality questionnaire. Let's have a look at one of them. On the first page, you can read about the report, and you see the logo we uploaded has been embedded into the report. The most important page is this results page, and the most important number is the percentile score. A percentile score is more useful to us than a raw score of, say, 14 out of 20, because 14 out of 20 doesn't actually tell us much unless we know what other people got. Would that be a good score, a bad score, or average? A percentile score is more useful because it tells us where the candidate's score ranks against scores other people have got. So for example, the 10th percentile would mean the candidate's score is higher than 10% of the scores achieved by the people in the comparison group. And the 90th percentile would mean the candidate's score is higher than 90% of the scores achieved by the people in the comparison group. The 50th percentile would mean exactly half the comparison group scored lower than the candidate, and the other half of the comparison group scored higher than the candidate. So that would be exactly in the middle of the group. The comparison group, or norm group as it's sometimes called, is recorded here. Now let's have a look at the personality report. Here, instead of aptitude scores, we're given personality traits, and each trait is scored on a scale. And here's the job fit score we made earlier, which shows on one scale the personality traits we picked: calm, methodical, and procedural. They've been combined into one score for quick reference. If you didn't tick the box, the job fit score, when creating their project, all that would happen is this green box here wouldn't appear. But you still get the full personality scales, so you can see all the traits measured. The rest of the report contains the full personality scales and narrative, which explains a little bit more about what each trait means. And that's it for this quick start video. There are lots of other features of the platform, and you might have more questions. When you have time, have a look at our knowledge base articles, which are here in the footer.